It being 7 p.m. on July 8th, I will begin the meeting for the Finance Committee. Do we have anybody from the public that would like to comment on anything except the transfers and the reserve request involving the police department that we have tonight? Any other public comments? All right. I'm going to skip over the committee reorganization until the end of the meeting. The first thing I'd like to do is to appoint a finance committee representative to the new public safety building committee that was just been established. The selectman, I believe, was the one that said we'll have one member from the finance committee on this particular committee. David, Deb, what this is in effect starting over again, looking to build a new police station and or an addition on the fire station. David, Deborah, are you interested?
I mean, I'm interested, but I have time constraints.
Okay.
Full time.
Okay.
Put me in, coach.
All right.
Yay.
Do we have any other members on the call? We don't have Michael or Derek. Okay.
Be here?
So do we have a quorum? Do we-
Yes, we have a quorum because we only have 5 members
Oh,
now.
okay.
So 3 of us are quorum. All right, I will move to appoint David Fuller as the Finance Committee representative to the Public Safety Building Committee.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3-0-0. Congratulations, David.
Yeah.
You're on board. The second item here is to reappoint Darlene Reagan as the Finance Committee representative on the Wage and Personnel Board. She's been on it, what, 2 years now, or 3 years?
No, this year.
Just over a year? Okay. I've gone to a couple of the meetings since Diane's been on it, and she certainly adds a very positive influence on that committee. Remember that that committee is only 3 people. So it's critical that the people are, want to be on the committee and that they want to work on it. And I think that Darlene represents the Finance Committee very nicely on the Wage and Personnel Committee. Any questions of Darlene or any concerns? All right, could I have a motion?
I move to appoint Darlene Ford as the representative to the Wage and Personnel Board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for your service.
Congratulations, Diane. Yes.
Just for clarification purposes, I apologize, I should have caught this. It's the public safety building is a working group, not a committee.
Okay.
So if we could just maybe clarify that.
Rhonda, in the minutes, make sure that it's known as a working group instead of a committee.
Thank you.
All right, the next thing we're gonna do is, because they're both related, the reserve fund request usage and the line item transfer. The police chief here has come in to give us his concerns and an explanation of why he wants to do this on an emergency basis. Brian, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The vehicle that's currently being used by animal control, I've taken it out of service. I found out about 3 weeks ago that it was not inspected. So that's the first concern that I have, that a vehicle that is under my purview is being operated illegally. So I had asked the fleet maintenance supervisor, why is it not inspected? Let's get it done. And the information he was given from the mechanic is that it will not pass inspection. It will be rejected for safety. So we talked about what those issues are. Mainly it's the front end suspension, repairs, cost estimates in the neighborhood of $6,000 to $7,000. Vehicle's got 110,000 miles on it. It's over a decade old, needs tires, needs a wiper motor replaced. There is no backup camera. It's broken. It's got rough riding. So there's probably some other issues at work. So when I took it out of service, I needed to get a vehicle. I borrowed one from the Plymouth County Sheriff. He was kind enough to help us out. It's a working van. The van is labeled so that people will appropriately know that it's operating on behalf of the town. It's got the town seal on it. A van is more of a suitable working environment other than what they've had for so long. Animals come in all shapes and sizes. A working van will be more suitable to the job. If we replace it now, we should be good for at least 10 to 14 years, depending on the life of the van.
Okay, thank you. David?
Yeah, questions. So it's like 10 years old, so it's like 2000 or older, right? So it's not worth very much, to be honest, right? It's probably only worth $4,000.
I don't think it's worth that. I mean, in addition to what the chief mentioned, there's another, I know there's a hole in the hood. That, you know, something pierced the hood. I mean, it's in really poor shape.
And I watched the selectmen's meeting. I thought I was going to get more from that, but I didn't. So what are you replacing? What do you want to replace it with?
It's a Dodge 1500 working van, low top. So if you see the one that's out there now, it should be a little bit shorter than the one that the sheriff has lent us. Give you some specifics on it.
But it's like a panel van?
Yeah, yes.
Panel van.
Yep.
Okay.
It's not CDL or anything like that. It's a 1500. So it's a 1500 cargo van, low roof, 118-inch wheelbase, 3.6 liter V6. It's coming in white, so we'll be able to label it when we have funds available for that.
And the price?
65,221.25, I believe, is what I've been working with the town finance director.
Okay. And is that, okay. So we've borrowed a vehicle. And we had that vehicle for how long?
I didn't ask. I was happy to get it. The sheriff had to have his fleet people remove 2 seats from the rear. So I would like to give it back as soon as possible because I don't know what he uses it for or what he's going to need it for, but I would assume it's probably for road cleanup work, details, those types of things.
All right. If we have to give that back tomorrow, now what's plan B? What's our alternative?
We don't really have one. I mean, I could have the animal control officers using their personal vehicles, but that's not fair. The fleet that we have in the police department is so low that we don't have a vehicle that we can repurpose to them. We're actually waiting for vehicles, 2 vehicles that we ordered in October of 2022 that are supposedly working their way from the lots to us. So that's how far back.
Yeah, which was my next question, is usually they get a hand-me-down. So when's the next hand-me-down coming? Possibly. So when is your next new police vehicle coming?
So there are 2 that are working their way slowly towards us. I don't even think I have anything that's suitable to hand down to them. I don't know if anybody's aware, but the Plymouth County District Attorney has a comfort dog program. It's very popular. You see it on other area departments' Facebook pages. I've had the offer. The dog's valued at about $5,000. He just gives it to you on grant. I don't have a vehicle that I can repurpose for that. That's how short the fleet is right now.
All right. That's all the questions I have for now. Couple concerns I have. One is the price tag on the new one. And I don't know, because I have to look around, right? But that seems high. I think like some of the Ford ones, and I don't know if it's the same size, but I thought you could get those for like high 30s, low 40s. So I was a little concerned about the price tag. My other concern is just, and I'm no expert on this, I may need help on this, but the process.
I'd
So
be happy to address
we're usually not the first stop here. So this would probably go through planning, and then normally we'll go through town meeting. But are we bypassing that because we're classifying it as an emergency? Can we bypass it?
So, a couple of things. Ideally, and I'll take responsibility for this, the chief made the finance director and I aware that of the condition of the existing animal control vehicle. We knew that it was not in great shape. That being said, I didn't realize, that it was in as poor shape as it is. When the chief came to me, one of the things I should have done and did, and I'll take responsibility for this. You know, Brian's been here a short period of time. He doesn't know all the processes. I should have picked up on it. I never even thought, frankly, of the capital planning committee and going to them. So I will take responsibility for not I'm immediately saying, let's get to the capital planning committee, either right before or right after the board of selectmen. So that's, you know, typically what the capital planning committee was trying to schedule a meeting for this week anyways. They've got one on Wednesday. The police department's gonna come in and have that conversation with them. But that's on me, frankly. I'll take responsibility.
Because it wasn't in the plan either,
It
right?
wasn't in the plan, and so
Because I
I guess
know,
I'll say-
I've heard for like at least 2 years, like they don't want the hand-me-downs, they wanted Dave.
right. So again, I'm trying to be as, I guess, as there's been a change in administration in the police department. You know, I appreciate the conservative nature that the police department has run in or under. I think you've seen it already with the request for staffing at town meeting. And, you know, I think you'll be seeing a request sometime potentially as early as next spring for a potential police station. While being conservative is always something that's important, and I think the chief is trying to be the same way. Providing the appropriate amount of the appropriate type of equipment for his staff is also important. And what we've heard, I think, what this committee's heard, and I think what the capital planning committee has heard in the past from the animal control officers is that a Ford Explorer is not an appropriate vehicle for animal control. The department head who was responsible for recommending changes or equipment for that department chose to go in a different direction. If at this point we don't have the vehicle, the Ford Explorer available to provide to hand down. We have a sheriff's car that is being allowed to be used, and I'm assuming transports prisoners potentially to do some different jobs on behalf of for communities. We see them in town here occasionally. That's a short-term fix. If we need to go out and get a vehicle, the thought is let's go out and get a vehicle that's most appropriate for the type of work that the animal control officers do on a day-to-day basis. I understand the concern about the price. But again, it's a state bid.
It is.
So it's not like we're just driving to the dealer and saying, what can you do for me? The state has bid this vehicle out. This is the price that if anybody wants to buy a van as described by the chief, this is the price you're gonna pay for the van, whether it be Kingston or any other community in the state. So I wish I had a better answer or process. I don't. That's on me. We have a need. I wish it was less expensive. It's not. But I think what we're trying to do is if we have a need that needs to be filled, we fill it with the most appropriate piece of equipment we can. Can I wait till fall town meeting? I'm gonna, frankly, we've got a gap, you know, a significant gap of 4 months where I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna do for a vehicle. The money was appropriated at town meeting. We're reallocating the 60 some odd $1,000 from 2 or 3 different sources to fund that need. It's not, unfortunately, as clear cut and as clean a process as we would like to have it be. But we have a situation where we're trying to react in an appropriate manner that provides, like I said, the type of equipment and vehicle that this particular division of the police department needs.
Okay, Deb, do you have any questions or comments,
I have the
concerns?
same concerns that David mentioned. I guess I'd be interested in seeing what exactly you'll get for a trade-in. Why does it have to be brand new? That's pretty significant amount of money.
What this brings me to is I get back to my concern when I first saw this is that the place where a lot of these questions are supposed to be answered is the capital planning committee. So that I believe that this item absolutely should not go forward without going to the capital planning committee. I also must admit that I probably opened Pandora's box a bit here when I suggested that there was $17,000 remaining in the finance committee reserve account that I was willing to dedicate or to have the finance committee look into using that for some kind of a quote unquote emergency item for the police department. I never thought about it being part of a $65,000 purchase. So that I don't like funding it this way and not going through a normal capital plan. Because we go out and we buy a $65,000 asset that never goes through a capital plan, we kind of lose track of the fact that that's another $65,000 that we spent on capital this particular year. So that being said, I'm not in favor of this. I also give the chief credit for, seeing a problem, temporarily solving that problem by getting a loaner vehicle in here. I would challenge that if that vehicle has to be returned in 30 or 60 days, then, we try to find another vehicle within the town of Kingston's fleet of vehicles that we can use for the 30 or 60 days. When's town meeting? Early October?
End of November,
End of November? Okay.
19th, I believe.
Okay, so we're really looking at 4 months plus. So those are my thoughts.
Question. What other needs do we have? Do we have any other, wow, loaded question. Right? What other
Where should we begin?
vehicle needs do we have within the other town departments? Do other town departments have vehicle needs?
Oh, they'll all tell you they do.
I know, they all tell you I do,
Paul
but
Basler needs 3 new trucks every year. The fire department needs at least 1 or 2. The fire
but
department,
what I'm saying is, well, and let me not take the chance to mention this too. This vehicle has 100,000 miles on it, and it's a town police vehicle, and the suspension is shot. So what does that say about our roads? But I'll digress off that, but I just felt I needed to mention that.
I don't think we're patrolling it.
Must have been going down Country Club Way a couple too many times.
Could be.
No, but what I'm getting at is you don't want to dump good money on bad. Right? I don't, it's a $5,000 vehicle and we're gonna put $8,000 into it. But if there's another need, could that potentially get us through 4 months, then go get the new vehicle and then take that vehicle and then have it as another spare vehicle in town that's going to get relatively low miles that maybe the building department can use or the, the planning department or some other department, we can
Sure.
use it.
So
I mean, I'm thinking all around.
I appreciate that. I guess I'm somewhere between where you are and where Mr. Pike is. I mean, will the fire department come forward with another vehicle request at some point? I'm sure they will. The Streets and Parks Department, I think he has said, other than his catch basin cleaner, he's in pretty good shape for the time being. With the situation that we're in right now, as far as vehicles go, the most pressing need is this animal control bid. And to try to find a happy medium, if there's a way to do that, capital planning has a meeting Wednesday night at 6 o'clock.
What's the number?
If this FinCom wants to adjourn and open a meeting after, either Wednesday or Thursday, to see how the capital planning committee votes, that may be something you'd be willing to consider. Happy to try to work there if I can.
I personally am not excited to do that. I would rather see, if we don't approve this transfer, what it ends up being is going back into free cash. And I personally would rather see this $40,000, the $17,000 from the reserve go back into free cash for next time around. And that free cash is what ends up funding the capital plan the next time around. And I'm saying that, within reason, we can probably do a minor capital plan at the November town meeting.
So my concern frankly, and I don't mean to sound argumentative, but my concern is, what do we do between now and the middle of November? And that's the real challenge we're facing right now. And while I understand it doesn't follow a process and there may be an opportunity to lose track of the capital of this particular capital purchase, if we go to the capital planning committee and they propose something for the November 19th board town meeting, and we take it out of free cash, we're sitting here November 20th in the same situation we are today, which is trying to utilize available funding to fill a need.
But to me, the big difference being that it will have been vented, it will have been due diligence done to say, yes, this Dodge, such and such a cost is the best thing to do. The funding will come out of free cash where it's very visible, as opposed to coming through a transfer and through a reserve fund.
And I understand and respect what you're saying. Again, the issue we're facing is we're facing a problem that we're dealing with today or next week or 2 weeks from now, whenever the county wants their van back. And I don't have a vehicle to be able to pick up an animal.
And see, I'm willing to, I know I'm sitting in a different chair. I'll take the risk that they don't need the van back until the middle of December, giving us time to get anyone.
Could I ask you a question? I was gonna ask,
Oh,
Certainly,
yes, sir.
certainly.
so I don't want to give the sheriff back a dented van. I have a working relationship to think of. And if something happens to it while it's in our care, we're on the hook for that. That could create another problem. It's property of the town of Kingston. That's a different situation. So I would ask the support of the committee here by way of a vote authorizing these transfers contingent upon an additional vote by the capital planning committee. I'll go before them Wednesday night. We'll have the same conversation. And I appreciate Keith jumping under the bus and letting it run him over.
Or the van.
Or the van, but
Any vehicle works.
he's right. I'm only in week 11 here. It's not an excuse, and I will offer that. I'll jump through whatever hoops I have to for any of these processes. I'm not trying to circumvent anything here.
I understand that.
But I guess my question comes back to procedure though.
Sure.
Procedurally, we can do what you want to do
Yes, sir. Absolutely. We wouldn't be here for it.
because you're considering an emergency. Is that the
Yeah, I mean, so there's
trigger?
there's the funds, unexpended funds are available in the 24 operating budget. The only mistake, if you want to call it that, that I made or that was made in this process was not going to the capital planning committee last week when we were brought this and before it went to the board of selectmen to say to them, we have a need. Here's how we would here's how we would propose to address that need, and hopefully get a vote of support from the capital planning. That's the only difference.
Carol had a comment here, and I was going to ask Carol anyhow. My question before you came in. Normally, I'm used to seeing transfers from one account to another account to cover an overrun from the prior year. I've never seen a transfer to enable us to buy something going forward. So I'm making a transfer of June accounts to do a July of 2024 transaction. And this is all kosher?
It is, because the vehicle's on order. So,
Then what are we sitting here for? If the vehicle, well, that really pisses me off. And I'm not gonna vote for anything that, is being done before we get even to talk about it. And
It
I
was on order, subject to approval. They know it's subject to approval. That's key. So my two comments I wanted to mention was the fact that a couple years ago, fire came in front of us and they needed an emergency vehicle. I think it was an engine, $75,000. They were able to get it from the town of Yarmouth. That went through emergency procedure. And the second thing is, it was always assumed that one of the police vehicles was going to be handed down to animal control. However, with the supply chain problems that we've had, the police have had to obviously hang on to it longer.
Okay. Thank you.
So again, I think it's, if I could, when we spoke to the dealer, there's a demand for these vehicles. We said to the dealer, he understood that we had some approvals that we needed to receive before we were able to actually acquire the van. And if we couldn't get those approvals, what would they do with the van? The van ultimately would just be sold to a different entity than us. So they understood that they could place the order to try to get the van sometime before the end of July. But they understood that they were doing it without a complete financial commitment to Kingston. But to try to expedite the process, they were willing to take that chance to allow the van to be ordered while we were going through the process of getting the funds transferred that we need to get transferred.
Any other comments, David or Deb?
Just I'm in agreement with you. I feel like it should.
You opening it up?
Would you like to make any comments?
I have a lot of concerns, being on capital planning, it should have come through us first.
Name?
Oh, Keith Ember, 214 Indian Pond Road, Chairman of the Capital Planning Committee.
Thank you.
Are you satisfied? Should I turn my microphone on too? I was told by one of the selectmen this was an emergency. And my initial response, which I didn't state, was on capital planning, or at least I'm a member of, we go to you to tell you there's an emergency. We know the process. We're more engaged in the process all along. It's one of the things we're here for. It doesn't sound like an emergency when such a thing as a joint meeting is a thing. We could have done that last week. If we couldn't have separate meetings, we could have done 2 committees in one and a board in another, or all 3 in one meeting. And I think that would have satisfied some residents who might have problems with this. I've had residents call me about how much we spend on decals and stealth lettering for the police cars. I mean, there are people who get upset about little things. How do I explain this? If it comes up like that, it's a little bit of an issue. Plus, we make the other department heads jump through a lot of hoops. Paul Bowser had to come to 4 capital planning meetings to talk about his trucks. That was before he had to go to FinCom, selectmen, and town meeting. I realize these are different circumstances, but I feel like there's a bigger conversation here to be had. And I understand that, the new police chief is not familiar with our ways. It comes from a different town. So I think it's complicated. And I honestly, well, I don't want to get too far into my opinion about the ultimate decision if Mike Minnie has to vote on it later.
I hear you. All right, shall we vote?
But even I'm trying to think everything out, right?
Sure.
So even if you meet on Wednesday, your committee reviews it and is like, yeah, we're okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's still supposed to go to town meeting.
Well, it sounds like it's, as Carl said, kosher if it doesn't, because this is a process they have. It is a new way of acquiring vehicles for that department. It's something that was mentioned in an informal conversation to me 3 years ago. The current committee is not familiar with this. I was the only current member in that conversation at the time. It was added to the capital plan, as I can see, for 2030 to replace it with a vehicle. We've not had a discussion about the subsequent replacement of that vehicle, and what that'll do to our budget. We'll have to choose between replacing a new vehicle that's gotten older with another new vehicle. And right now we have parking lots we can't pave, and the price of the estimate's going up by 50% every 2 years. We're kicking those down the road, as Carl likes to say, often because of other priorities. And I think this vehicle, if we replace it with a new vehicle, in subsequent years, that will be treated like a priority. So I think being that we had a formal process, I think that should have probably been discussed a little bit. But I understand that it's not necessarily adequate to the job. We just haven't had that full discussion yet. We haven't seen
Again.
these specs.
I will reiterate that I think that it needs to go through the process. And I had not even thought about the fact that capital expenditures go through town meeting. So, that's another area that I don't like, this method of financing. I don't like using money after the fiscal year is over. To having to do a transfer to justify an expenditure after the fiscal year is over. So with that, I think we should vote on this.
Can we just pull it from the agenda, or do we have to vote it?
No, we need to vote it because
Okay.
we have we need to take 2 votes. We have a formal request for a transfer from the reserve fund of the $17,506. And we have a transfer request.
One other thing. So, I mean. So we're talking, where is it? So what's it, 17K on us?
Yeah, 17.5.
17K anywhere else?
So when it comes to FinCom to get a budget transfer,
All right.
so that's not the issue. And if I could just, I apologize for what,
No, don't apologize. We're here to discuss it.
I understand the frustration of the FinCom and the chair of the capital planning committee that it didn't go through the appropriate process and wasn't vetted as it normally is. But I think it's unfortunate that there's such a dramatic need for this particular vehicle to be utilized for us to be able to provide the service, that the animal control services that are necessary. Because it was me. Listen, I have no problem, and I have no problem acknowledging and shouldering. I should have reached out to Heath and asked to have either a joint meeting or a capital planning meeting. I never even thought about it. So I just think it's unfortunate that we're going to bounce this back and forth between FinCom and capital planning and talk about process when I think the process this is a unique situation that we're trying to react to and work within the constraints of municipal budgeting. And would I like this to go to town meeting? Absolutely. Would I like it? Would I wish to have gone to capital planning? No question about it. But we're dealing with, 26th, 27th, 28th of June. The car can't be inspected. It's not roadworthy, and I don't have another vehicle to give to animal control. I'm trying to react to that. I wish it was 40 grand too. It's not. This is the price of the vehicle that's been identified and bid out by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This isn't just a one-off that Chief Holmes is looking to buy without comparing these vehicles to vehicles that other police departments are using for the same purpose. So I understand your frustrations. I guess I would ask that you consider looking beyond the fact that the process, that this is not the normal process, and the capital planning committee was inadvertently left out of this discussion to allow the police department to have the tools that they need to do what they need to do with regards to animal control. I'm done.
I appreciate those comments. And again, I'm upset with it for several reasons, not just because it didn't go to capital. Even if it went to capital last Wednesday night instead of this Wednesday night, I would probably personally still say I'm opposed to it because it's being funded via this transfer from last year after the fact when we're in the new fiscal year. Okay. I would also be probably saying from a financial control point of view, I don't like it not being in a capital budget
Mhm.
that goes through.
Mhm.
From a process point of view, I think all capital should go before town meeting. So there were several reasons. And just from a conservative finance point of view, I question the $65,000. However, when capital planning does their review and comes back and says, Kyle, you're lucky it's not $80,000. 65 is the best we can do. I say, okay, that's one thing that I will live with. But I just think there are enough items here that, and at one time, I was reading the reserve fund. Looks like the request for the transfer from the reserve fund that we typed up separately here. At one time, I don't know if we still do, we had right on that form that no expenditures prior to discussion. And I suppose that we're taking the position that it's not an expenditure because it's only a purchase order that can be pulled back.
Mhm.
Okay, I think I've said enough. David, you,
Yeah, I'm just,
one of the things being on the finance committee, it's frustrating to me that we're always faced with difficult decisions. That it's like when your spouse, tells you that she has to have a new car or he has to have a new truck. Well, sometimes one spouse has to be the one that says no. And so sometimes I believe the finance committee
yeah, and
has to be
let
willing
me
to
push a
stand
little
up.
bit on this. So we determined the vehicle is inoperable. But is it? Just because it doesn't pass inspection, or well, it still hasn't failed. Even if a vehicle fails inspection, you get a rejection on the vehicle, you can still drive it.
No, you can't.
30
No,
days,
is there-
can't you?
no,
Yeah.
no. We clarified. There's a black R on there. That's for emissions. You can drive for 30 days. If there's a red R, you're not supposed to have it on the road.
You're not supposed to drive it at all?
No, not at all.
All right, so there's clarification on that. Guess my car's never been that crashed.
You just been lucky.
They're gonna watch them now.
All right, so you're a no, even if he goes before him on Wednesday and then after that, they say, okay.
Probably yes, I am no. But that's kind of not here. We've got three people.
I know, I'm just thinking out loud, like, I don't like it, obviously, I don't like it. But we have to have animal control in town and they have to be operational. And that's level services, we're doing level services. They gotta be operational. I don't know how long he's got the van for. He brings up the good issue with if something happens to that van, it's gonna be on us too. So yeah, we are in a pickle. And I don't want to bypass that board because I wouldn't want my board bypassed. So, I mean, I would be willing post their review to possibly be in agreement and be willing to oversee or have him fall on the sword that he didn't follow the procedures, but at least get their review. Because again, the 65K review doesn't come from me. I don't know. I don't know if that's good. I don't know if it goes with the rest of their plan.
All right.
So I'm a no tonight, but even though I'm on vacation, I can make myself available Wednesday or Thursday or Friday evening via Zoom to vote.
All right, I'm going to make a motion to on the request for transfer from the reserve fund for $17,705.82 to go towards the purchase of a new animal control vehicle. I move that the finance committee approve this transfer.
And second,
All in favor? All opposed, opposed.
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 Okay, the transfer is rejected, 0-3. Now, the transfer, the rest of it, can we do that in piecemeal? Yeah, I don't see one. I move that the finance committee approve the transfer from solid waste rubbish of $40,000, from highway labor accounts of $7,715.43 to the animal control equipment line for this purchase of this vehicle, the remaining value of $47,715.43.
I second it.
All in favor? All opposed? Opposed?
Opposed.
Is that 0-3? All right. So the finance committee has formally rejected the transfer and the reserve fund account.
But at the same time, if they met in front of the capital committee and they recommended I would go along with them, they have more knowledge than I do about the situation.
All right, so you want
I don't
to,
know how to,
you
put
want
that
to,
forward.
you want to have a meeting for Thursday night?
Can you put through a recommendation based upon how they approve it, or like I move to,
We would have to. Yeah, in that case, then we shouldn't have voted on my authorization here. And we could have done it subject to the approval of the capital planning committee.
okay, well, I'm still just the processes either. So I throw myself on the sword, but I don't feel like I have enough knowledge to approve that, but at the same time, I feel like the capital would have the knowledge that I wouldn't have, and I would support their recommendation.
So
All
you
right.
choose, Carl.
Huh?
So you choose.
Then then we
Do
can,
you want to reconvene?
the cleanest way was to have another meeting. But we can also, in effect, cancel the motion the vote that we just took.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, and then we can take another vote to recommend approval, but only if the capital planning committee approves
But at the
it.
same time, I don't want to like
So here's,
show that I'm supporting it, and capital improvement committee
Well,
feels that,
so here,
that we're supporting
you
it.
can't have.
I know.
so here's the
I'm
question.
kind of like, I want them to make the decision, but I guess we have to make the decision.
We're the final decision.
Right,
That if capital planning recommends it, they're just recommending to us. They're not making the final approval, because the finance committee has the final approval for transfers. So the capital planning committee can say, yes, we recommend doing this capital improvement, of making this capital purchase. And then there's a matter of how does it get financed? Normally, capital planning takes it to town meeting, and town meeting says, we'll appropriate the funds. In this case, capital planning would say, we're approving it and we're taking it to the finance committee for them to appropriate the funds through the transfer.
Do it clean.
I mean,
Yeah.
I would say that in this case, if we did not approve the project and you approved the funding, it would probably still go through anyway. If this was town meeting, we would decide if it went on our article, and we're the only ones who can present the article at town meeting. But otherwise, we're advisory and oversight.
Why do you think if we made our approval conditional upon?
You can, I don't see why you can't.
But why aren't you?
I was just clear enough for Deb that, really what they need to continue with this acquisition is the approval of the funding source.
Right.
So we're just advising, if this is done the correct way, we would be advising you we think this is an emergency, this is the vehicle to replace it with, we're willing to do this going forward, change the process.
I guess I was misunderstanding you, because my interpretation would be if we approved it conditional upon the finance, the capital
You're correct,
planning,
say that.
then capital planning said no.
But if we had done this in other order, and we had said, we're in favor of the project, and you said, we're not in favor of the transfer.
It's dead on the water.
If we said we are not in favor of the project, and you said, you know what, we can still allocate the money anyway, the funds. I hope I didn't make. it
I
confusing.
understand what you're saying, and I think I agree with you, Heath.
Carl, what if we continue this meeting to their meeting?
What time post?
Yes, you don't need time, you don't need to post.
Oh, it's a continuance?
Then I don't know if we can get a quorum. I can't be here Wednesday night. I'll be in Boston.
It's remote only anyway.
I'm on vacation, so.
Yeah, I'm just saying, here, so I'm remote, if you're within reach of a computer.
You available Wednesday night?
Wednesday by Zoom, yeah,
What time should we?
6.
but I guess I'm still fine with the way we voted things today.
And I'm fine with the way we voted things today. So if that's the case, we're done.
Yeah, because Carl, I understand Carl's position,
But if I had
But
a
you're-
recommendation from the capital.
but you're along, more aligned with me. The only difference is you may be willing to approve it now with the contingency. And I'm not. I want to hear what they have to say. I don't not only want their approval, I also want to hear the meeting.
Okay, I'm fine with the way things went. I guess I just didn't feel knowledgeable enough to, approve it without having recommendation from the capitalization.
Okay, I'll take the hit that the finance committee has rejected the transfer and has rejected the reserve fund usage finalized.
Okay.
So the next transfer is from the veterans medical benefits account, 15,000, from the medical health insurance, 10,000, to the IT consultant account of 25,000. Any questions or comments on this? Now, Carol, I would assume this is just a case of covering a couple of overruns with an underrun, correct? Or is this another additional expenditure?
No, that is correct.
Okay, so finance committee members, this is an example. Good night,
Thank you.
Chief. This is an example of what I call a normal transfer where we had an overrun in the veterans medical benefits, an overrun, no, the other way around, an underrun in veterans medical benefits, underrun in medical health insurance, and overrun in IT consultant. So we're just realigning the accounts.
Yep.
Any questions? Did I have a motion?
So. I'm sorry, I don't even had it. So when I read it from this, I move to approve the following line transfers, which were approved by the Board of Selectmen meeting from the veterans and the medical insurance to the IT. Consultant, do you want me to say the dollar amount?
Yeah, why don't you?
Okay, 25,000. And from solid waste rubbish and highway
No,
labor.
forget that. We already did that.
Oh, okay.
You're done.
You're good.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 300. Okay, so those are all the transfers, correct, Carol, I think?
That is correct. That's all I have.
Okay, the next one would be the approval of the meeting minutes. The,
Have a good vacation. Yeah.
Bye, Keith. Have a good one.
the only item I had was so minor here. On the minutes of April 17th, it looked to me like we had 6 members in attendance, and on the third page, number 22, 700, that should probably be 600, Rhonda.
Number 22.
See that at the bottom of the page?
Yep.
Okay, so if we change that to 600, I think that's the only item that I had any concerns with.
So do we have to move to approve the minutes or?
Mhm.
Okay, I can move to approve the minutes as a whole.
The minutes for
No?
April 3rd, yeah.
April
let's do
3rd.
April
Oh,
3rd.
okay.
We can
April
do
3rd.
all, we can do all of them, because there's only 3 of us. Yeah, you abstaining from
Yeah.
that? Okay,
So you gotta do them individually.
yeah, okay.
So I move to approve the minutes of April 3rd.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved 300.
April 17th.
I move to approve the minutes of April 7th with that one change
17 with the amendment.
with the amendment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain. 201 with David abstaining. April
23rd. I move to approve the minutes of April 23rd.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, abstained, 300. Okay. Member comments, questions and concerns. David, anything
No,
beyond what we just spent? the
no,
last
I
half
will
hour?
reiterate though, I will make myself available if necessary.
Okay,
So if the chair would like Thursday, or if you can figure out that, well, we can't, because we already closed it, but I will make myself available
okay,
if
Yeah.
things change.
That's on Wednesday
No, no,
or Thursday?
it'll have to be Thursday earliest because we're gonna have to repost
right.
with 48
Um,
hours notice.
Yes, I can do a Zoom call.
Okay, anybody, anything else? All right.
No, what do you got?
What do I have?
Yeah, you put it on there.
Member comments, questions, concerns? I always put it on only in case there is somebody that has something. You usually have heard more than enough from me.
Any new members on the horizon?
One possibly, yes. I talked to a gentleman today who's going to, he's actually considering both capital planning and finance committee. So
He can do both.
that's what I told him. And he said he had told him the same thing. But we do have 2 openings. Now, we had committee reorganization on here. I would suggest that we wait until we have at least 5 members
Yeah.
at a meeting to reorganize. So I think that's
I think
the
we're good.
only thing I have.
Motion to adjourn?
Anybody ready to adjourn?
I am, yep.
Second,
Yes.
Oh, I second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Ah.